Good evening and welcome to tonight's meeting of the Zoning Board of Adjustment of the Township of Union, which is being held pursuant to the Open Public Meeting Law C-231 of New Jersey, dated 1975. Notice of this meeting was advertised in the local source. Good evening and welcome as well as the Star Ledger, the Zoning Board of Adjustment. Notice has been posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building adjacent to the municipal clerk's office. There being a quorum present, could I have a roll call, please?
Mr. DiGiovanni is absent. Reverend Starling?
Here.
Mr. Wiley?
Here.
Miss Alexander?
Here.
Miss Martins is absent. Mr. Lee?
Here.
Mr. Bentavegana?
Here.
Miss Scott is absent. Mr. McNeil?
Here.
And Mr. Champion?
Present. There being a quorum present, this meeting is now declared open. At this time, I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes from the November 2nd meeting.
Chairman, I move that the minutes of November 2nd be approved as read and dispense with their reading.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Mr. Manguso, are there any communications?
There are no communications, Mr. Chairman.
Continuing with the meeting, our first order of business this evening would be calendar number 3407, J. Benjamin, located at 12 Raymond Terrace, Block 4813, Lot 13, an addition with insufficient setbacks. Mr. Benjamin, would you like to come forward?
This one over here. Mr. Benjamin, I'm Rob Pansul, the Board Attorney. Can I ask you just to swear or affirm that the testimony you provide this evening is the truth and the whole truth?
Yes.
And just for the record, state and spell your name with your address.
Sure. My name is John L. Benjamin. It's Johnell. Last name is Benjamin, Benjamin. The address is 12 Raymond Terrace, Vauxhall, New Jersey. Zip code is 07088.
And you are the owner applicant for this
That is
case
correct.
this evening. Thank you.
No problem.
Proceed.
So good evening, all. I'm here to, guess, plea for a variance for addition on the left side of the home if you're facing, I'm sorry, the left side of the home if you're facing the home. Recently had a fire in the home, I think it was April 10th, thank you. Pretty much, it's a significant, we suffer significant damage, and the goal was originally just to build back as it was, but recently I was given word that I may have to pretty much have my parents reside with me who are ailing. That being said, we needed some additional space. If you review the plans, the left side, it's pretty much to add an additional suite or bedroom for myself and my wife, just to give us a little bit of peace of mind, because with twin teenage girls and ailing parents, it's going to be a bit crowded there, and my wife and I will need our little sanity. I've touched base with our neighbor, who has no issue with the addition, and that being said, it's just a matter of hopefully we're being approved and we can get started with the work so we can move back home.
Mr. Benjamin, do you have other witnesses tonight, or are you just presenting the plans? I marked your application as you submitted at A1 for the record.
Mm-hmm.
In A2, there were plans provided, 11 pages, was from Great Plans Architecture LLC. You authorized that group to offer the plans that we're considering tonight?
That's correct.
But are they here to testify, or no? I marked them and moved it into evidence.
No, they're not here to testify.
You are the owner and the applicant, correct?
That is correct.
And were you also the owner and applicant when you were before this board in June of 2018?
Yes.
Okay, just remind the board and the public that this application was approved for the same 3.5-foot side yard setback in the face of a 5-yard commitment, correct?
That is correct.
And you're basically not further encroaching that 3.5, but you're adding to the above area to that. So it's a
That
little
is
bit
absolutely
more
correct.
vertically, but you're not encroaching any further.
Just vertical.
Okay. And you understand that if the board grants the approval, similar to the last time, You're obligated to work cooperatively with the building department, which includes assurance of fire ratings and certain code requirements that need to be implemented to realize. the
Absolutely,
development.
yes.
Okay, I just note that for the record. Unless, Mr. Chairman, unless the board has any specific questions, you can ask the public if they have any questions or comments. This is rather straightforward because the board had granted this application once before, and unfortunately, as I understand it, and as Mr. Benjamin explained, there was a fire or some
Yes.
kind of issue that caused some destruction. It's a little bigger than it was, but it's not further encroaching the side yard. It's
That's
going
correct.
vertically, which are, this board can typically grant that type of bulk variance. Obviously, the use is permitted. It's a single-family use,
Single-family use.
and you're going to continue it in that regard. There's no
Absolutely.
rental or other features. So noted for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Pansula, and I do remember Mr. Benjamin. At this time, are there any board members that would like to question Mr. Benjamin's testimony? Hearing none, are there any members of the public that would like to question Mr. Benjamin's testimony? Hearing none, are there any members of the public that would like to comment on this application? Hearing none, I believe we can conference this. Mr. Benavenga, would you like to begin?
I would, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Based on the proposed renovations and looking through the plans, I think this is a good, clean application, and I'm going to vote yes tonight, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. McNeil?
I would agree with my colleague. It's a clean application, and I have no objections to this applicant, and I intend to vote yes.
Thank you.
Yes,
Mr.
Mr. Chairman, my colleague spoke for me. I'm going to just vote yes on this application because it's a good, clean application.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you
Wiley.
much.
Ms. Alexander?
Well, I'm going to vote yes, too. Look at the beautiful family that's out there. There's no way you can deny that, and he's going to bring his parents there. He could have moved out of Union. We want him to stay here, so I will be voting yes on this application
Thank you so much.
also.
Mr. Lee?
I'll just simply put, concur with the sentiments of fellow board members as well as Mr. Pansula, and I will be voting yes.
Reverend Starling?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you all.
As for myself, it's a good, clean application. Variances requested will not have any negative impact on the property or on the neighboring property owners. So I, too, will vote yes.
Thank you.
At this time, can I have a motion to grant the application?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the board grant the variance applicable to this application, and that council is directed to prepare a resolution consistent with the board's decision.
A second?
Roll call, Mr. Manguso?
Mr. Benavenga.
Yes.
Mr. Wiley.
Yes,
Ms. Alexander.
Yes.
Mr. McNeil.
Yes.
Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Reverend Starling.
Yes.
And Mr. Champy.
Yes.
December
Thank you.
7th, Mr. Benjamin, the board will adopt its formal resolution, but certainly in the interim, you or your professionals can deal with the building department. Try to
Perfect.
get
Thank
the
you very much,
project
Paul. Appreciate it.
You got it.
Good luck.
Good luck. Our next order of business this evening is calendar number 3404, Beldy Holdings LLC, located at 2013-17 Springfield Avenue, Block 5813, lots 50 and 51, and it's for the construction of a 9-unit multifamily dwelling with off-street parking. Counselor?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Catherine Kopp, appearing from Post Pollock, appearing on behalf of the applicant. I'll just give a brief summary of
Catherine, what
the
was your last name? I'm sorry, Miss
Kopp, K-O-P-P.
K-O-P-P. Thank you.
Yes. Just a brief summary of the application. As the board is aware, the property is located in two municipalities, Union Township and Maplewood. The applicant tonight is seeking approval to construct a 3-story, 9-unit multifamily building. As you're aware, multifamily buildings with more than 2 residential units are not permitted in the RB zone. Applicant is also seeking preliminary and final site plan approval. Tonight will provide testimony that the building as proposed contains 7 one-bedroom units and 2 two-bedroom units. The project also includes 12 parking spaces on site and will also provide testimony that additional off-street parking spaces are available for use in connection with this project on a neighboring property. Tonight I have 4 witnesses: Gregory Waga, my architect; Christian Cueto, our engineer; Elizabeth Dolan, our traffic engineer; and Gabriel Baylor for planning. And with that, I'd like to call our first witness, Gregory Waga.
For the record, counsel, I did mark the application as it was submitted A1 for the record.
Okay, thank
I
you.
marked A2, the site plan, as it was submitted by Harbor. I think it was dated April 19, 2022. It consists of 7 sheets and included a survey. A3 were the architectural plans of Wago Architects, revised through August 4th of 2022, and that was 11 pages. And A4 is the operations and maintenance manual, and A5 was the traffic impact status report by Dolan Engineering. So I have A1 through A5 for the record.
Thank you.
To the extent any of the exhibits are differing from what I just referenced as submitted, then we'll mark going forward with
Understood.
that. Perhaps the witness, I think, can use the, is there another mic?
Sal? Yes. It's over there.
I might come across loud enough. I've been told I'm very boisterous at times.
TV, sir.
Huh?
Yeah, not for TV.
I understand.
Can I ask the witness to raise his right hand and swear or affirm that the testimony you provide this evening is the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
For the record, if you could state and spell your name with your business affiliation.
Sure. Gregory J. Waga, W-A-G-A, Waga Enterprises Architects, LLC, 2109 St. George Avenue, Rahway, New Jersey, 07065.
Thank you.
Okay, and can you please give the board a brief description of your educational and professional background?
Yes, graduate of NJIT in 1987 with a bachelor's in architecture, a master's degree in finance and investments from Fairleigh Dickinson. I've been licensed in good standing with the state of New Jersey for 27 years now, licensed in 8 other states. I have presented in front of this board, though not recently, along with numerous boards throughout the state.
Okay, I'd request that Gregory Waga be accepted as an expert witness for the purpose of providing architectural testimony.
Mr. Chairman, does anybody have any questions about the credentials?
Are there any board members with questions? Want to proceed?
Thank you. Can you please describe the project for the board?
Yes, I'm gonna, is this portable, or should I just hold it like this?
No, you can take it out.
I can take it out? Okay. Good evening, everybody. What we're proposing here this evening is as alluded to by Ms. Kopp, is a 9-unit structure, 3 stories above grade, 31 foot 8 inches above grade. The ground level will be of a variety of different applications. We're going to have the 12 off-street parking stalls underneath the right portion of the structure. Let me just take 2 steps back. Every item that I'm presenting tonight, other than 2, you have in front of you. I do have 2 exhibits, which are the colored renderings, and I have prepared reductions for each of the commissioners to review if the screen is not enough. So moving forward here, we're looking at sheet A-1.01 prepared by my firm. We have our parking stalls off to the right here. We have a common entry, one directly off of the parking lot, the covered parking lot, one off of the street and sidewalk area. We come into a proposed tenant lobby. We'll have a ground level unit of 819 square feet, common mailroom area, access via elevator up to the upper floors, and then a stair up and down to a basement. The basement level will encompass the footprint of approximately this area here, of course, taking into consideration the net area, taking into consideration our structure. The lower level, or the basement level, will support storage for each of the tenants on site. along with the sprinkler room and utilities, various utilities. Moving up to the second and third floors, which would be this sheet here is the sheet I'm presenting because they're identical, is sheet A-1.02, labeled, again, proposed first living level floor plan, but it's actually the second floor. On this floor, we do have coming up to, again, the common core, the stairs, which are towards the rear, the elevator here. We come out to a common hallway. We have our two-bedroom unit off to the left in plan view, and then we have 3 one-bedroom units surrounding the remainder of the building, which are constructed above the the covered parking deck below. Each of the units vary in size. We do have a unit count along with a unit square footage in the lower right-hand corner next to the title block. They vary in size from 810 square feet up to 1,111 square feet, that being the two-bedroom unit. I'll move on to the rendering. And I can distribute the reductions if so needed. Please ask if you'd like. What we have here is a very attractive structure. We've spent a lot of time with our client who's taken a lot into consideration, the surrounds, along with the transition of Springfield Avenue. We're going to have a neutral colored brick structure with various arches, bronze colored windows, and we'll have a two-tone, or actually almost a three-tone brick with our banding, our Palladian arches, and then we'll have a base level which will solidify the ground level as such, the support mechanism for the structure itself. It'll be very attractively and aesthetically pleasing. It'll be constructed steel base frame, wood second and third living levels. We'll have a brick veneer, standard features. We will accentuate the trim around and the banding around the windows. And what else? The building will satisfy all the new state and international building codes, which are just changed this past September, but will not come into full effect until March 6th of next year. The building will be fully sprinklered, and we hope to have it fully occupied as well. That is my presentation this evening.
This time, are there any board members that would like to question the testimony Mr. Waga has given?
I do have a question concerning the aesthetics of that building with the neighborhood that it's going to be built in. How does that aesthetically fit in with that existing community?
Well, from a height standpoint of view, it is not as tall as the surrounding buildings. It is about 3.5 feet shorter based upon, we did not physically measure, but based upon our visual observations, it is shorter than our neighbors. This structure here is the only brick face structure in that area. We have vinyl face structures, we have aluminum siding face structures, so this will stand out, and we hope that it will become a cornerstone for the transition into Union.
You didn't mention anything about site lighting or anything of that nature. Is there a proposed site lighting?
There is site lighting. I will have this. We do have our engineer here who can discuss or elaborate more on that, Commissioner.
Okay.
But there will be some very nicely aesthetically placed surface-mounted lights. There'll be uplights, which will have again a limited efficacy, both vertically and in a downward manner.
Just for the record, Mr. Chairman, we have 2 sheets. These 2 comprise the board there. Do you want us to mark these?
Yes, if you would, and they're labeled A-4.01 and A-4.02.
They're colorized versions.
They're colored
from your
renderings,
site.
yes, sir.
The 2 sheets I'll mark, or make up the one board you have, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
One is on this side and one is on the other side.
What's that? Why is that one marked? That one's marked?
Were they already submitted?
Were you a part of the application that was submitted some time ago for this applicant that was ultimately withdrawn, or no?
No,
Are you
sir.
familiar with that? No?
No, sir. The last that we're apprised of would be from a number of years ago, close to 15 or 16 years ago. And that was larger in scale.
Hold on, let me just, there's a note on here.
Yeah, those are the reductions that I would have provided the
Okay.
commissioners this evening,
I'll note them for
so
the record as A6.
that's fine.
Because they're colorized.
That's fine.
Are you familiar with the Collier's engineering letter that was issued? I don't know if anything addresses architectural, but are you familiar
I'm
with that?
familiar with it. I did review it. We reviewed it as a team on 2 different occasions, as most recently as yesterday, and nothing architecturally was indicated.
You realize it's an RB two-family zone as it resides in Union Township?
Yes,
correct?
sir.
You're not offering any testimony in that regard?
I am not. We do have a
Okay.
planner here to discuss that and
Thank you.
elaborate more.
A6 for the record will be the colorized.
Thank you.
Mr. Waga, I have a quick question for you.
Yes, sir.
Did you say you didn't know the height of the building, or you don't have that, or is it?
No, our height of our building is going to be 31'8". I stated that at the outset.
Okay.
I was not, I visually observed the neighboring homes, and they were approximately 35 feet in height.
Are there any other board members that would like to question the testimony Mr. Waga has given? Hearing none. Are there any members of the public that would like to question just the testimony that Mr. Waga has given? Not to make a comment. Comments can be made at the end of the meeting, after all the witnesses have spoken and given their testimony. Are there any members of the public that would like to come forward at this time? Hearing none, Ms. Cobb, your next witness? Oh, you do.
Johnny Rosser, 2914 Vauxhall Road, Vauxhall. How many total units are in the building?
9.
Nine.
9.
All right,
7 one-bedrooms and 2 two-bedrooms.
so 7 one-bedrooms. Okay. And you said those 7 bedrooms, are they split between the 2 floors?
The 9-bedroom, that 1-bedroom, there's a one-bedroom unit on the ground level,
Right.
and then there are 8 additional units over the next 2 floors, so there are 4 per floor.
4 per floor.
Yes, sir.
And you said you looked at the buildings, even though you didn't actually see them. What buildings did you see that were 35? Your height was, I think, 31.
Correct.
What buildings did you see in the area that were that high?
The adjacent dwellings appeared to be about 35 feet tall, the residential.
Are you talking Montclair Avenue or are you talking Springfield Avenue?
Montclair, and then the one on Springfield going towards Hilton, approximately 35 feet tall.
Okay, so that's you're talking about the two-family house? the brick-
Correct.
The two-family brick?
Brick and vinyl.
Brick veneer?
Yeah.
Okay. And the ones on Montclair, you're not taking into account anything on Springfield Avenue, correct?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir. Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public? Ma'am?
Good evening. Dr. Nicole Drakeford, NICHOLE-DRAKEFORD. Sir, you stated that it was zoned as a two-family, yet this is a 9-unit apartment.
Correct.
So how does that work in that area?
You want to explain
They're
it?
going to have another witness trying to address that. I raised that too. He's not offering any testimony in that regard.
Okay.
I raised that as well as a legal issue as the board attorney. They're going to have another witness that's going to address that.
Okay, secondly, again, it could be from another one who will share, but you stated 9 units, 12 parking spaces, and based on some of the parking being underneath, but there was still some off-street parking that we're concerned with.
Once again, that'll be, I imagine there's a traffic and a planner to go over. There's a shortage in the parking too.
Yes.
The number of required spaces. The architect didn't offer any testimony addressing the parking. The engineer, I suspect,
Okay.
will offer that.
Okay, and it was stated that this property would be a cornerstone to Union when this is Vauxhall. And this is one of the concerns that we have, being a cornerstone church in the community. We don't see how this will, as you've shared, be a cornerstone to our community when developers are coming in. However, the residents of this area, we have some concerns about establishments and the developers not living in our community, but sharing the plans. And then, you know, we're dealing with issues within our community with parking and congestion already. And then again, not addressed to you, as you said, the engineer would share.
Right. And also, at the end of the meeting, all the public will have the opportunity to make general comments.
General comments understood, but
Yeah.
when Ms.
Can I just,
Kopp-
I think
yes.
she missed for the record the spelling of your name. Could I just
Sure.
ask you one more
It's
time?
Drakeford, Nicole, Nichole.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I will soon return. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Kim Eason, Eason, 327 Revere Avenue in Union. Could you please tell us what the length of the parking spaces will be, and is it a one-to-one, one person gets one parking space?
Well, again, I know that they satisfy the minimum criteria for the municipality, and
No,
we
no,
do have our...
no, that's not true. The parking, there's a shortage in parking.
No, the size. Ms.
That's
Eason,
not true either.
According to the application.
You're not offering I was going to tell her you haven't offered the parking.
I will
details.
defer, Ms. Eason, I will defer that
Right.
answer then.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then may we just go back to the height question again?
Sure.
Because I know you said it seems as if it is not as tall as the others. May we please understand specifically which buildings were compared and know specifically the locations and sites of those buildings, please?
Well, I have the locations, and they were the adjacent dwellings. I don't know the size of the lots, and I estimated, because I'm not technically permitted to access those properties. So it was, as I alluded to, was a visual estimation.
Just keep in mind that there is two zones there. So you have the RB, you have the residential on Montclair Avenue, and then anything on Springfield Avenue would be higher because of the fact, Mr. Waga, it's in a different zone, just so you know.
Understood.
So that's why you would see that Springfield have a little higher.
Understood.
I could tell you, being the construction official also, that I believe there's no 35-foot homes on that street.
Okay.
You know, our ordinance back then didn't permit, I believe, 35 foot. So they may be, if there are any, there could have been granted by variance.
Understood.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public that would like to question just the testimony that Mr. Waga has given? Hearing none. Ms. Kopp, would you like to call your next witness?
I'd like to call our engineer, Christian Cueto. Can you please identify yourself for the record?
My name is Christian Cueto, Christian I am a professional engineer with Harbor Consultants.
Just for the record, too, can I ask you to raise your right hand and swear or affirm that the testimony you can provide this evening is the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
And just spell your last name again. I got the Christian part, but we didn't.
Cueto, Cueto.
Thank you.
And can you please describe your educational and professional background for the board?
I have a bachelor's in engineering from NJIT. I've been a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey since 2007. I've appeared across multiple boards, and I sit as the municipal engineer for the Borough of Kenilworth. And 2 years ago, I provided testimony for Union.
The board will accept his credentials.
Thank you. Can you please describe the project for the board?
Sure. Okay. We're going to enter this into as A7. So this is a plan that my company put together. This is an aerial showing the site along with the block and lots of the adjacent properties. So again, this is 2013, 2017 Springfield Avenue. This is block 2904, lot 536 in the township of Maplewood, and block 5813, lots 50 and 51 in the township of Union. It's along the corner of Montclair Avenue and Springfield Avenue. The existing site is vacant right now. There's a small asphalt driveway along the corner onto Montclair Avenue, and the rest is overgrown with some shrubbery along Springfield and some trees adjacent to lot 539 to the east. The surrounding area is commercial to the north and residential around the surrounding area. I guess this will be A8. This is just a colored rendering of our layout and dimensioning plan with the proposed landscaping superimposed on that.
A8 for the record.
Okay.
Just if you don't have the shrunk version, we're going to need those so she can mark them and make them part of the record before you leave tonight.
Okay.
Okay.
So again, this area here shows the 9-unit multifamily building. There is, on the first floor was the 1 unit, but adjacent to that is at-grade parking. Based on RSIS, for the number of spaces required, it is 17 spaces. On site, we are proposing 7 spaces adjacent to the tenant lobby with a 24-foot aisle with 5 spaces along adjacent to lot 1. The other 5 spaces that we are deficient, there's been talks between our applicant and I believe the neighboring U-Haul site across the street from Springfield that will provide 5 additional spots so that we will fulfill the amount of parking that's required for this site.
If I may clarify, just for the record, the property that you are referring to is 2033, 2048 Springfield Avenue. This is with regard to the additional parking spaces off-site.
Yes.
That's the office building with a parking lot associated with it?
That's correct.
Okay, and how many parking spaces are they, as the neighboring property owner indicated they're willing to lease?
5. So
Okay.
that would be 5 plus the 12 on-site, which would be 17 spaces, which meets the requirement for this project.
Okay, and is it accurate to say that the owner of 2033, 2048 Springfield Avenue is also willing to lease an additional 5 spaces for a total of 10 if those additional 5 spaces do become necessary?
Yes.
Thank you.
The applicant is also proposing some improvements along Montclair Avenue, along the right-of-way, concrete sidewalk and curbing, as well as providing landscaping along the Springfield Avenue and along the adjoining lot 539. The analysis of the bulk requirements for this project are as follows. Again, this is multiple dwellings where only 2 permitted is 2 family dwellings, which requires a variance. The lot area is 8,703 square feet where 5,000 is required, which complies. The lot width, since there's two frontages along Montclair and Springfield Avenue, it's 89 and 116.2. The required lot width is 50, so that complies. The lot depth, again, since there's two frontages, there's 75 feet from along Montclair and 113.12 adjacent to Springfield Avenue. The 75 is an existing non-conforming dimension. The front yard setback, we're proposing 10 feet where 25 feet is required, which requires a variance. The side yard setback is 15 feet where 5 feet is required, which complies. For the rear yard, again, because we have two frontages, we considered the opposite sides to be side yards, so the rear yard is not applicable. The building height is 31.8 feet, which complies with the 32 feet for the zone. The building coverage is 46.16, where the building coverage maximum is 40%, which requires variance, and the impervious coverage is 73%, where 60% maximum is required for the zone, and that requires a variance.
Okay, I'm going to jump in really quickly. Okay, and just to confirm, for the height of the building, the zone permits, we're within compliance as far as the actual measurement of the building, but the zone permits how many stories?
I'm sorry.
2 stories, and we're proposing
2 stories,
3,
and we're
correct?
proposing 3 stories.
Okay. And then with regard to the size of the property, you had indicated that the consolidated lot, so both the Maplewood lot and the Union Township lots, total 8,703 square feet.
That's correct.
What is the size of the lots that are in Union?
The size of the lots for Lot 50 is approximately 2,018 square feet, and for Lot 51, it's 927 square feet, for a total of approximately 3,046 square feet.
Okay, and that was where 5,000 is required?
5,000 is required, and if you tried to put a type of dwelling on there, with the 25-foot front and rear setbacks, the maximum amount of, for a building envelope would be like 15 to 20 feet wide by 20, 25 feet deep.
Okay, so it would be a very narrow building?
A very small building.
Okay.
So based on Collier's letter, we are requesting some design waivers. Parking space length, I believe, is 20, and we're proposing 18. We're also requesting design waivers for the parking setback from the principal building, the street, the property line, and the residential zone. Also parking in the front yard and no planting buffer between the parking lot and the adjacent property line.
Okay, I'm going to jump in really quickly. The 18 feet for the parking spaces that we're proposing, is that in compliance with RSIS and/or ITE standards?
Yes.
Okay.
Just not with Union.
Okay. And with regard to, from the engineering report, item 1.8, that's related to the parking setback and the various design waivers that we're requesting. Excuse me. Why can't we comply with providing the various setbacks?
It's because of the shape of the site. It's a very odd shape. It jets out towards Montclair here, as well as turns into Springfield here. It's just a very irregular site, and to get it, this to comply would be very difficult.
Okay. And with regard to section number 1.9, we're requesting a waiver for that as well, with no parking in the front yard?
Yes.
Okay, and again, is that due to the shape and size of the property?
Shape and size and having frontages along 2 different roads.
Okay. And then 1.1 in the engineer's report with the buffer, the planting buffer.
Yes.
Had we evaluated whether or not planting could be put in there?
Well, we have planning along this area adjacent to Lot 539. Adjacent to Lot 1, we couldn't be able to put landscaping there, but there is another comment in there about putting in a vinyl white fence, and I think we can do that, and that provide a little bit of a buffer between that property and the site.
Okay, but if we put the fence in that location, will that reduce the size of the drive aisle?
No.
Okay. Okay, and can you describe for the board, the lighting that we propose?
Sure. I'm just going to turn to sheet 5 of our plan.
Before we move on to lighting, can I just ask a question relative to the parking? You had mentioned this U-Haul property. Is that property in Union?
No, I believe it's a Maplewood.
Do we know anything about that property by way of how it's zoned, and perhaps if the addition of parking off-site from another property would impact their requirements?
No.
I can answer that question. I pulled the resolution, the site plan resolution for the approval of that building. According to that resolution, the site does have 99 parking spaces and did not require a variance.
Okay.
We do have to present this application to Maplewood as well, so use of the neighbor's property for off-street parking for this project would need to also be approved by
That would need
Maplewood.
to be noticed separately. It's not Union, but it's a Maplewood issue potentially.
Yes, yeah, it would be included in that application as well.
There's
and
no agreement in place yet. This is what you're pursuing as a possible.
The property owner has indicated a willingness to lease 5 definitely, and then make available an additional 5 for a total of potentially 10 parking spaces on his property, provided that it does not violate Maplewood's requirements.
Right.
So we have not entered into a written agreement yet, but a memorandum of understanding has been drafted and is currently being negotiated, and we'd be more than happy to submit that as a condition of approval.
Let me just clarify, because I asked the other witness, or one of the public did, that there's no doubt that what's presented here is short on the required number of parking spaces as it pertains to Union, correct?
Yes.
And we don't know for sure if U-Haul sells that property tomorrow and wants to put a 9-unit multifamily residential housing development of its own, if you would be able to park there anymore. I would assume that you would lose that ability, correct?
If I may, well, a point of clarification, it's not a U-Haul. U-Haul is one of the tenants in the building
Oh,
on that site.
he referenced it as U-Haul, that's why I said, okay.
But also, I have drafted a proposed lease that has been submitted to the property owner, and it is a 99-year lease.
Okay.
So terms are being negotiated to make this as long-term as possible. We don't have anything signed yet, but
Well, I'm unfamiliar legally with the ability to carry it beyond a sale of the property. That's the point I'm making. So if someday that property changes ownership, you might lose the ability to park there.
leases do routinely get assigned, and, buildings with, commercial buildings with existing tenants are routinely sold, and the buyers have to honor existing leases.
Right, buildings in kind, but if he converts similar to what you're proposing here, a multifamily housing unit,
Well-
which is different than a retail, which I imagine it's U-Haul plus some other properties, I don't know.
It's an office building with a very large parking lot. Again, we're proposing a 99-year lease with the property owner. To my knowledge, he has not objected to the 99-year lease, but at this point, we
Okay.
have drafted the memorandum of understanding. It just has not yet been signed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we can go over the lighting now. The lighting has been designed to illuminate the parking area and the entrance into the site. The light has been designed not to exceed 0.3-foot candles. I know there was a comment in Collier's letter about what would be the spillage along the property lines, and if you can, and this is shown on the site plan, there's nothing that goes above 0.2. along the Lot 1 and then a Lot 539 to the east. So this lighting is in compliance with the zone.
Okay, and can you describe the type of lighting that will be provided?
Yes, it will be wall-mounted Guardco LED sconces that will hang underneath the parking areas.
Okay, that'll be photocell light?
Yes.
Okay, and, excuse me, how will the lighting operate?
The lighting would work on a timer, I guess, between dusk and 10 or 11 p.m., and then motion sensor after that, if somebody would come in late.
Okay. And can you describe the landscaping for the board, please?
Sure. Most of the landscaping is in Maplewood along Springfield Avenue. We do have a little bit of a buffer area between the property and the residential and Union. We have several arborvitaes and shrubs along the easterly lot line.
Okay, and can you please describe the stormwater management?
Sure. I'm going to go to page 4 of the site plan. Presently, most of the runoff for the existing site goes towards Montclair Avenue. With the increase in impervious, we designed a detention facility. This is not a major development due to the size, but we still put in a detention system that would collect all the runoff from the building as well as the parking lot to go into the system and then discharge into Maplewood Avenue. With this setup, now you would have less runoff going into Union and going down Montclair Avenue. Everything will be collected on site going into the existing storm sewer along Springfield Avenue. The rest of the site has been graded to the best extent to drain towards the streets. And there's a small area here, but it's negligible in comparison to the existing conditions.
Okay, and can you please describe how the garbage will be handled?
We could put a garbage pad behind the building with a fencing, and what would happen is they would have a contract with a refuse collection, and they would bring out the refuse from that back area to the street on the appropriate refuse day.
Okay, and how are we handling bicycle parking?
We could put a bicycle rack along the frontage of the property. There's a little bit of landscaping here that we can remove and put in a bike rack for several bikes.
Okay, and occupants of the building also have storage in the basement that they could store their bicycles inside?
That's correct.
Okay. Excuse me.
And I think there's 2 other comments from Colliers that I want to address. I think we had brick pavers along this area here, and they wanted it to be concrete, and we have no objection to that. And lastly, we will obtain a road opening permit, do the lot consolidation deed, site improvement permit, and obtain all other approvals required for this project.
Okay, and with regard to comment 2.6, there was a request for showing the fire truck turning around. Will we be addressing comment 2.6?
This is the issue with showing a fire truck template. I mean, there's a fire hydrant near Montclair Avenue. Most people, fire inspectors, people who work fire, they never bring the truck in. They always fight the fire from the street.
Okay, and did you receive a copy of the report from the fire department?
I do not believe so.
Sorry, if I may turn the board's attention to, I'll hand you a copy of the staff report from the fire department. Can you indicate for the board and for the public whether or not the fire department in their staff report had any comments regarding this application?
The letter from September 7th, 2022, the fire department said they had no comments.
Okay, and we can show the site triangle on the plans, correct?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Okay. And we'll provide an easement for that portion of the property that we own?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Excuse me. Okay, I have no further questions for this witness.
Yes, thank you. Like the picture.
Plato, are you having the electric vehicle spots? That's in the state law.
We can. I mean, we can designate any one of these spots and comply with that comment.
You can?
Yes, we can comply.
Mr. Wiley?
Well, did I hear you say that for those 5 spaces that you were short, that you plan to utilize on-street parking?
No, no, there's a parking lot. There's a parking lot across the street that we, as Ms. Kopp stated, that, you know, there's negotiations to lease 5 spaces with the possibility of 10 more for the site. Springfield Avenue, I guess Milburn Avenue? There hasn't been a formal agreement reached at this time, but we will make it as a condition of approval. We have to come back?
We will agree to, as a condition of approval, to submit a memorandum of understanding with the property owner of the property across the street, confirming that he did in fact agree and is willing to lease 5 parking spaces as soon as the CO is issued, and will make available an additional 5 spaces for a total of 10. So we will make that, we do agree to make that a condition of approval.
I have a question. So let's just say that they do provide you with the 5 parking spots. How are we going to enforce that they don't park on Montclair Avenue? Because if I could find a spot on Montclair Avenue, whether I got a spot across the street or not, I'm going to use that spot on Montclair Avenue because it's a shorter distance for me. So what would be the enforcement for the owner or, you know, the company that might, you know, watch over the property?
Well, because there's only 12 spaces on this site, all the spaces would have to either be, you know, specified to a specific homeowner.
Okay, so
and we could probably try to do
I'm in
the same
apartment
thing.
2A.
Yeah.
Okay, and my spot's across the street.
Yes.
And I find a spot on Montclair Avenue. How do we watch that, you know? I mean, is there any way? Is there any way from stopping anybody that has a parking spot across the street from parking on Montclair Avenue?
I would have to discuss with my client to see if there is any
I'm just-
possible option, but, you know, it's,
My point is, I understand, but my point would be, no matter if you get the 5 parking spots across the street or not, there's a possibility that they're going to still park on Montclair Avenue.
so my client is available to provide testimony as well, but so I can bring him up to confirm the intention as far as who these units will be marketed to, but the intention is to market the property to residents that don't have cars to minimize the need for parking. And then, you know, the neighboring property, it is not that far of a walk. It's, you know, granted, it's not as close as parking in your own driveway. I acknowledge that. But, you know, again, the property, the units will be marketed to persons that, you know, commute by mass transit and don't have vehicles, don't need the vehicles, but the parking will be available on site, and then additional parking across the street if it is needed.
I also want to add, based on our SIS, for 1 bedroom, 1.8 spaces are required, and for 2 bedroom, it's 2 spaces. And we're also assuming that some of these 1 bedrooms would only be 1 person.
Well, either, we've clarified we need a variance for parking spaces, right? There's no doubt about that. I mean, we're going back and forth a bit with RSIS. There's a variance needed for parking, and this is a D1 variance as it relates to union zoning ordinances, correct? Right, there's no disputing that.
I'm sorry, can you?
There's no disputing there's a variance required for parking, a bulk variance? For the
For-
number of spaces?
For the number of spaces provided on site, yes.
Right, and this is, as relates to Union Township, a D1 use variance relative to that. That's one of the criteria this board is considering. We would agree on that.
Yes.
Okay.
And again, I can bring my client up to confirm on the record as well, but he will assign one parking space on site to each unit.
I
So,
think that the point of the code enforcement official, and it was a good one, and obviously there's a lot of public here tonight, and we're trying to be mindful of what their concerns might be. He made the point that if the spaces are available to somebody across the street, as a practical matter, if there's a space closer than where they're looking to be assigned parking, they're going to use it, and that impacts the neighborhood. That's the point I believe Mr. Mancuso was making.
That is correct, especially if it's pouring rain or a blizzard.
well, my client will agree to assign a parking spot to each apartment. So one parking spot to each apartment. So in the event that a tenant does have a vehicle, they will have a spot on site, and then the additional spots would be provided across the street.
But the answer to Mr. Manguso's question is union certainly can't enforce them if they decide to park on the street instead of their assigned spot, off-site. Correct? I mean, I think the answer is rhetorical. There's nothing we can do about it. That's the concern. Thank you.
I do have a question, or just to go back to Collier's letter, 2.6. I mean, the focus was on fire trucks, but his comment addresses emergency vehicles, not just fire trucks. EMS is an emergency vehicle. Can that vehicle pull in and turn around in that parking lot?
As you can see, I believe so, because they can come in, this is the extent of the building. They can always pull into this first spot here.
But
and then
has
and then
the
back.
turning template been placed on that?
I can show that.
Okay. And I didn't hear any mention of ADA parking spaces.
There's one ADA spot in the corner.
Is that part of the 17?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Lee?
Yes. More questions about parking. In addition to some of the questions about EMS access, the ground floor is open for, basically it's an open space where someone can go in, get their parking space and park there. What's the height from the ground to the ceiling of the bottom floor?
I would have to ask Mr. Waga that, the architect.
We're just under 10 feet.
And can you testify that that is enough for an EMS vehicle to actually access?
As Mr. Cueto alluded to, the EMS vehicle would not access underneath the building. He would access, or it would access adjacent to the structure, correct. And
Okay.
we also provided for an access off of Springfield as well. I'll just point to the board here. There's an access at this location, so there's two accesses, one for on-site and then one off of Springfield's thoroughfare.
Okay. So can you confirm then, based on the testimony that you have given, that if, worst case scenario, there is a medical emergency on that property, that means the EMS vehicle would have to be basically idling either on Montclair Avenue, either in the middle of it, or if they are able to find parking, they could park there, or they would be basically idle on Springfield Avenue? Is that the only way that they
Well,
will
like I
be able
said,
to
well, like I
tend?
said previously, this is the extent of the building here. And then there's at least over 10 feet here that they can go.
But at least from what I heard, that the EMS vehicle would not be going into that area.
No, you had asked
Underneath.
underneath the structure.
Yeah.
It would not go underneath because most EMS vehicles with the sirens, the most recent ones are 10 foot 8 inches tall. So it's
Right.
8 inches shy of meeting those standards. What Mr. Cueto is alluding to is it would be parallel. Here again, this line here indicates the perimeter of the floor above. This line here this is all paved in here. So the EMS vehicle would pull in, stage, and then pull out. And then again, as I believe one of the commissioners asked, it's like a turning template on that as well, and Mr. Cueto will provide.
So are you saying then, and I'm just trying to get my bearing straight looking at this property here, is that there is this gray outline here, you're saying when an EMS vehicle pulls up, that they would basically on their end make a left, and there would be an area for them to basically.
Correct. Yes, sir.
And how wide is that space?
As Mr. Cueto alluded to, just about 10 feet.
10 feet?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And in addition to that, I also had a question with regards to, just to close the loop on the fire, letter from the fire department, and also to Collier's letter for 2.6. If, let's say, if there was there any, you said there was no comment, but has there been any addressing of how fire trucks, in a particular circumstance, hypothetically, if this structure was put forth, would attend to a fire that's on the south end of the building and as well as the east end of the building?
Along this area,
Yeah, so I'm basically following the coordinates that you have here, like the south is basically the bottom left, the east is basically the bottom of
they
the
probably
sheet.
go in through this area here, and they would probably come in through that area there. I mean, not with the truck.
Well, a fire
but
truck
the-
can't go
yeah,
through that,
but-
go through, right?
But yeah, they would.
It's only
you
10
know,
feet.
But like I said, anyone from the fire department would tell you they don't, they won't bring the truck into a burning building.
And additionally, my question about the parking with regards to 1.7 is that you're proposing the length of 18 feet without a 2 feet overhang. Can you elaborate a little bit more of your justification for that proposal?
We typically 9 by 18 is a typical space for most of our engineering designs. I've seen 9 by 20, but typically 9 by 18 fits like every car.
Okay. Can I also ask then, understanding our ordinances, why would you not propose a length of 20 feet?
Then we would lose the sidewalk here because of the constraints. Because we have an 18, 24, and 18. And then we have a 4-foot sidewalk and then the building.
So are you saying that it's just basically losing sidewalk? Is there any other reason that you would not have a 20 feet length?
Yeah, it's just, we usually use 9 by 18, usually works, and if we would lose sidewalk, that would be the only way to get that additional footage.
Okay. And my next question is with regards to, if I see very closely in a parking spot, there is a stopper. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, what?
You know how when there's a parking space, there's a stopper at basically.
Okay.
To basically make
a
sure
wheel
that.
stop, yes.
Yeah.
There are wheel stops along here. There's no wheel stops along the building.
So there's no stoppers along the building, but there's stoppers on the other side.
Yes.
Now, for those parking spots, with the stopper, what's the typical thickness or length or width, the thickness of the stopper that would take away from the 18 feet?
About 8 to 10 inches.
8 to 10 inches. So almost maybe potentially a foot.
Yes.
Okay. So really, then a parking,
So remember, the car goes over the front bumper of the car goes over it.
Right, right. So it really depends in terms then in some circumstances, depending on the size of the vehicle, that within that 18 feet, that they could potentially might lose another feet to get into the space.
No, I mean, I've done designs like this before. Even with a wheel stop, most cars can fit in fully. They're not into the aisle or at all.
Even, let's say, for an SUV?
No, same thing. SUVs are higher, and they would go over the wheel stop.
Okay. Now, my next question is the parking space that is adjacent to the stop end. So if we locate where it says stop, and if you just go down and hit that first parking space here,
Yes.
can you, it's a little bit hard to see on my end, but can you elaborate if there is any kind of wall or any kind of barrier for that parking space adjacent to that stop end?
It's a concrete curb, yes.
It's a concrete curb,
Yes.
but not a wall?
No.
Okay. And how big is the concrete curb?
Height?
Yes.
Usually 6 inches.
Usually 6 inches. When a car goes into the I guess the parking area, I would assume then that on the left side of the stop is where they would enter, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and they would basically have to then maneuver themselves to obtain a parking space after going in, and then I think they would just have to then turn to the left a little bit and maneuver to the right a little bit, eventually getting into a space.
Yes.
Okay.
Or they were back in.
Okay. My other question is in regards to, just to close the loop on the other proposed parking, is there any kind of, for the availability of those additional 5 spaces, or potentially 10 spaces, is there any stipulation that there would be an offering of additional ADA parking as part of the 5 or the 10?
Well, based on ADA, for up to 25 spaces, you only need 1 ADA spot.
So there's
Reserving, I've had, I've been a part of the communication with the property owner across the street. To my understanding, reserving an additional ADA space has not been a part of the conversation.
Okay. I think those are all my questions. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, before we move on, the site plan has sparked another question concerning refuge. Seeing the landscaping enveloping that whole area, and I believe this is Hilton Ave, that's coming into Springfield Avenue, and you said that you can put the refuge container in that corner.
We can update the landscaping to give a clear path to be able to get refuse to the street, either along Springfield or along Montclair.
And a refuge vehicle would be able to make that turning radius?
No,
to get in there?
they wouldn't come into the thing. The things would be brought out to the curb.
Say again?
The refuse would be brought out to the curb. They would not come in and get it from the site. It would be brought out to the curb.
So now, then that means this whole area will now be paved?
Which one? I'm sorry?
Where you said the refuge container was going to be, you saying that the
Yeah,
container
it's
would
gonna
be
be
brought
about-
out, which now it would have to be paved.
Yes.
That would change your whole
sidewalk.
calculations now, right?
It's only 8 by 10 is 80 square feet. It's minimal.
8 by 10. But this is grassed area where I see green, right?
Yes, 8 by 10, right here.
How does that container get out to the street?
Someone would bring, it's not a container, just be like
cans.
cans, yes.
Okay.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Credo, just a quick question. A couple questions came up about garbage and dumpster and bicycle parking and electrical parking spots.
Yes.
And You just pointed like different places, like we could put it here, here. Was this taken into consideration because it's not on the plans, or are we just doing this on the fly, or?
No, I mean, this was something that was discussed in some of our pre-meetings.
But it's not on the plan, right? I'm
It's
not seeing it?
It's not on the plan.
Okay, because I'm looking at it.
Yes,
So you're basically just assuming at the point where we're going to put it?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other board members with questions? Mr. Cueto? Hearing none, are there any members of the public that would like to come forward and question only the testimony of Mr. Cueto? Not to make a comment or an opinion or state your opinion, just on the testimony. Ms. Eastman?
Can you just explain again about the entrance? So all of the tenants, the entrance is on Montclair Avenue? So
There are two entrances. There's one underneath the parking area where it says proposed tenant lobby, and there's one off of Springfield Avenue coming in.
So there would be additional, well, I guess you can't answer that question. But based on those entrances, that their access is going to be either off Montclair Avenue or either off Springfield Avenue.
That's correct.
That's correct. And then the front door, where is that located? Is it on Montclair or Springfield?
I would say that this would be the front door along Springfield.
So the front door to the building will be on
Yes.
Springfield Avenue.
Yes.
And if I can go back to garbage, and it's probably a comment, so Mr. Chairman, if it is, you may stop me. We've taken a lot of pride in cleaning up Springfield Avenue. It has had a lot of garbage and a lot of issues over the past many years. And so I'm just very concerned that it appears that how that garbage is going to be disposed, where it will be placed, has really not been taken into consideration. And I'm just very much afraid that that could become an issue for us.
When we revise the plans, we could put a refuse area, we could put fencing around the refuse area, we could put landscaping around the refuse area, just to cover it up and not make it so visible.
Okay, thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you,
Chairman.
Ms. Eastman. Ma'am?
Yeah, Mr. Cueto, that may be, if you decide to put in encased, or that may add to the impervious coverage, so just,
I'm aware.
Okay.
Like I said,
I just want to make sure that you.
Even an 8 by 10 foot refuse area is only 80
Yes.
square feet.
And the question I do have is, getting back to the garbage, now that everybody raised the question, you're saying they're cans?
Yes.
Bring a can to the curb, or?
Yeah, bring the cans.
Okay, and at what point, where would you, think you would, Springfield Avenue? I'm assuming that because most of the property and the taxes are pretty much paid in Maplewood, that they would do the garbage pickup?
That would be a question for the applicant, but I would assume so.
Okay. But just where the garbage cans would go. If we're putting them on Montclair Avenue, or Springfield Avenue, that would be something that would need to be addressed. It's pretty important.
If I may, the applicant will stipulate to have a private hauler come in twice a week to pick up the refuse. The cans will be on wheels so that the garbage hauler can come, get the garbage from the storage location, and bring it out to the truck.
Okay. With that being said, times would be, if you're coming in early in the morning, or two times a week, backup alarms at 5 o'clock in the morning. There are a lot of complaints in this town over that, so just.
Understood,
keep that in mind.
and we will make the hauler aware of the concern about the pickup times.
Well, there still are adjustments to the site that need to be realized based on the impervious coverage that's being added to house the refuge, because the plan, as we're looking at it, doesn't show anything, right? That was clear by Mr. McNeil, I think, made the point that, it's going to increase the variance that you're requesting for impervious coverage as well. Whether it's 9 cans, there's 9 units, you're going to need some magnitude of refuge. 9 cans, a dumpster, apparently it's not shown on the plan. That's why these questions are coming up more chasing what it is we're trying to have the board consider tonight.
Instead of a concrete pad, I could do grass pavers, and that would equate to open
Well,
space.
that's what you're doing, or that's what you're looking to do? I mean,
Well,
that's-
I was just saying,
you
we
see
could,
the problem here.
No, but I'm saying we can work around that.
Excuse me.
Bertha Matthews, 355 Stiles Street, Vauxhall. In reference to the garbage and refuge, how close will the garbage area be to the adjacent homes?
If we place it right here, it looks about
You said it would be behind the building, so,
right behind the building right here.
so how close will it be to adjacent homes? We're concerned about
About
rodents and things like that.
7 to 10 feet
7 to 10 feet?
from the right-of-way line. I'm not,
And how many apartments again?
9.
9. So if I lived there, I would have 9 garbage cans,
Well,
7 to
maybe-
10 feet away from my home?
It wouldn't be like 9 specific garbage cans. There might be at least 3 or 4.
Okay, well, it is a concern.
Okay.
It is
But like I said, we will put fencing around it.
It is a concern. It wasn't mentioned, but we do have rodent problems in the area.
Okay.
Just for clarification, you went over a number of variances, and you went through them rather quickly.
Yes.
Could you just give us all total, how many variances do you need for this project?
You wanna-
My apologies, I'm just, there are a number of variances that are being requested. So we are asking for variances for, so the D1 use variance, and then for the site itself, we are requesting bulk variances for lot depth, correct?
Yes.
And minimum front yard, correct?
Yes.
And for the third story for the building?
Yes.
Okay, maximum building coverage, we are requesting the variance?
Yes.
Okay, and maximum impervious coverage?
Yes.
Okay, and then we're requesting 4 design waivers, correct?
Yes, and also the parking.
Yes, you're right, correct, the parking, so, and then the variance for the parking. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if I'm counting correctly, that's 6 C variances that we're requesting and
Yes.
1 D1 variance.
Yes.
Okay.
And 4 waivers, right?
And 4 waivers, yes. And if I may ask a follow-up question, if, with the Union lots, so just taking into consideration the 2 lots that are located in Union,
Yes.
if someone wanted to build a 1 or 2 family home on that property
Yes.
that was larger, so what size 1 or 2 family home could be built on that property without having to have setback or the number of variances?
Yes, that would be a house of 20 by 25, like 500 square foot.
Okay, so a very, very small home.
Very small home.
Okay, so any average size home to be constructed on the 2 lots that are in Union would require a significant number of variances, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
But not a D1 variance for a 2-family home, correct?
No.
Are there any other members of the public that would like to come forward and question Mr. Cueto's testimony on Mr. Rossi?
It's been referred to a number of different times about a Collier letter.
Yes, it's the
somebody-
engineer's letter,
Yeah, could
engineer
some-
and planner's letter. I'm
All right, could
assuming.
somebody go over that, because it's been referred to back and forth about particular either variances or et cetera, so that,
Cueto he has accomplished that. He went
so, all right, so all those, the letter, the Collier letter represents all the variances, is that correct?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And the other question I have is, in terms of Maplewood, the requirements for the Maplewood portion of this still has to be approved through Maplewood also,
That's correct.
right? Now, are the requirements for zoning in Maplewood as opposed to the zoning in Union, would there be differences? I realize it's a difference in...
Yeah, there are differences. This is actually I believe, a permitted use in Maplewood. Yes, multiple dwellings are permitted use in Maplewood.
So, but whatever requirements that Maplewood would have that Union doesn't have, how would that impact then on this, basically on the building? If there's something that's in Maplewood that is required, that's not necessarily required in Union, what's going to be the impact on that?
Well, that's why we're here first. We'll get this approval, then
All right, so you're going to Union first and then to Maplewood.
that's correct.
Are there any members, additional members of the public that would like to come forward?
Just so the public's clear, too, this is Rob Pansul, the board attorney. The Collier's letter that's referred to, that's the township's engineer. They do the review for the board so the applicant can address the details from the site plan. That's part of why that might not be clear. It is available. Anybody can come see it at the building department. It's on file. And that was where the source of the testimony came from. There's no dispute as to the details in the Collier's report, right, Mr. Cueto, in terms
No.
of the variances as they've listed them?
No.
I know you raised the type of variance, but I don't know necessarily that we went into detail about, for example, the impervious coverage requirement being 60%, and then what's proposed is 73.24. That number's going to go up a little bit more, correct, with the garbage area?
Yes.
Okay. But there's no discrepancy in what the details in the Collier's report as proposed,
No.
correct? Okay.
Good evening. My name is Christine Williams. I'm at 330 Russell Street in Vauxhall, 07088. And I've been listening to the emergency vehicle issue, and I just had a question, and there was mention of this being somewhat of an awkward laid-out lot. Within the building, what are the emergency exits?
There are two exits leaving the building, one along Springfield and one
So it's
towards
the
Park.
same way you get in as the way you get out during an emergency?
Yes.
Okay. And what, again, is the access for emergency vehicles? I'm unclear on fire trucks, emergency vehicles, and police cars.
Police and EMS.
All of them?
Well, police and EMS could come in through here, adjacent to the building.
Okay,
Fire trucks would fight the fire from the street.
okay. And this is a non-gated complex, correct?
Non-gated.
Non-gated. So what is the protocol for the parking lots and anybody else gaining access off the street who is looking to run into a store for a few minutes?
Oh, I can probably, I mean, entering this site?
Just in general, how are those assigned lots being protected from anybody else parking in them? And then there being issues with the residents of that unit?
The residents would have specific spaces for their unit.
Right, but what keeps somebody from parking in there that needs to access a store that's close by?
If someone's parked there illegally, someone can have the car towed.
Okay, that is all. Thank you.
Any other members of the public that would like to question Mr. Cueto's testimony?
Yes, name is Robert Williams, 330 Russell Street, Boston, New Jersey. 07088. You said that everybody in the building has assigned space, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, if it's two people in a one-bedroom, how many cars can park under the street, park underneath on the spot?
It depends on how many people would want a spot. I mean.
Okay,
there-
there's 9 units, right?
Yes.
And how many are one-bedroom?
Not, 7.
7. So you're assuming that one person's going to live there?
I mean, it could be one or two.
Assuming.
Yes, yes.
Assuming. So basically, if there's one person living there, and say this is your girlfriend right here, she comes over, she has to park across the street because you can't park under the street. So if her car parks there, which is assigned to you, then she can get towed away.
Well, then she would have to park across the street then.
Okay. She's wearing heels in a snowy day. Seems it might be a comment. I apologize. She's not going to park across the street. So the question that we're always wondering is, you say you got these parking spaces that are assigned to the people in the building. So you say they'll be towed away. So if somebody come visit, you park your car across the street, how do they know if that car that's there registered to that building?
They could put like some sort of maybe sticker or
You-
placard.
You're saying maybe. There's a lot of assumptions and yes and what, but there's nothing in detail, like the gentleman said before. So it means a car that comes, whoever lives there has to go to the town and get like a permit.
Well, actually, it would be through the building. It wouldn't be through the town.
Okay, so there's going to be security in the building.
No, there won't be security.
So how do I say once again, you're not addressing the question. How is it that if my wife comes there and parks there,
But if someone is leasing a room, in one of these rooms, or one of these.
an apartment, it's
units,
called apartment, not a room, it's apartment.
one of these apartments, there obviously will have to sign some sort of like agreement, and also with the agreement will be a space with that
Okay.
agreement.
So if I may, it will be a part of the lease that each apartment is assigned one parking space. If that tenant's parking space is occupied by someone other than the tenant, or, if the tenant doesn't have a car, but they have a guest that's going to park, and someone is parking there without the tenant's authorization, they would be able to call the landlord, who would then be able to have the unauthorized car towed. There are 9 units, but 12 on-site parking spaces. So 9 of the parking spaces on-site will be assigned to each apartment as part of the lease. The lease will state 1 car per tenant, and then there will be additional parking across. There's three extra spots on site, and then at least 5 extra spots across the street.
Okay, let's get back to the parking across the street. Do you live in that area there? No disrespect.
No, I do not.
Okay, so let me explain this to you, the question I'm presenting to you. Okay, from where Springfield Avenue's at to the parking spaces you're talking about is across the street.
Yes, sir.
When you come down Springfield Avenue, it's a sign, a green light that goes down Melbourne Avenue. So it's kind of hard for them to cross the street.
So there are crosswalks with,
I live there, there's crosswalks there. If you go back 15 years ago, the car stolen in Irvington came around that corner and crashed into a car wash right there on Melbourne Avenue next to Joe's Pizza and killed 3 people. So when you come around that corner, I don't care if there's a crosswalk there or a stop sign there. Us of Vauxhall who live there, and it is Vauxhall, stop saying Union, it's 07088, okay? That right there, you can get killed on if you're walking across. So keep that in mind, because if you're going to do any traffic changing, that's one of the biggest things. And that building is behind where the gas station is. So that's from here to about where the parking lot is. That's not an easy walk, okay? If you're wearing heels, once again, not trying to be funny, and you come to visit your boyfriend walking across there, he's gonna get his car and park over there. So you don't have a permit to park underneath the parking lot. The second question I have you is the garbage. Please explain the garbage area again, or what street is it on?
Garbage area would be right here behind the building.
Behind the building, that's on Laurel Avenue, right?
This is Springfield here.
That's Springfield Avenue, right?
So, right here, yes.
That's Hilton Avenue, so by the church.
I guess, yes.
Once again, you don't live there, correct? It's by the church.
Okay.
Hilton Avenue is on the church, the street.
Mhm.
First Baptist Church.
Okay.
Okay? So you say, okay, but this is Hilton Avenue, this is Laurel Avenue, this is Springfield Avenue, this is Montclair Avenue. So where's the garbage being parked at? By the church?
Let's see.
Yeah, flip it back over. So
The
Hilton
church
Avenue
is,
is
the
about a
church
church
is, the
parking
church
lot.
is here?
Church on Hilton Avenue, yes.
Okay. And this is the site?
Yes.
And it would be right here,
And where's that at?
adjacent to Springfield Avenue, adjacent, near the Laurel Avenue intersection.
So it's Laurel Avenue.
I said near, at the
Is
intersection.
it Laurel Avenue or Hilton Avenue? I'm just asking.
Springfield and Laurel, right here.
Okay. So the garbage is going to be on the Laurel side. Am I correct? Because across the street from Laurel is the Dunkin' Donuts and Blimpie used to be at, which is an empty lot now.
I mean, we could designate it, a path to go to
Once again,
Springfield.
with disrespect to you, and in front of you keep saying we can, nothing's in the plans.
But
So
no,
you-
we will
You
modify.
can
the
modify,
plans.
so the garbage you said is going to be on Springfield Avenue, correct?
Yes.
Okay, you're saying 9 cans, maybe 3, maybe 4.
I didn't say 9 cans.
No, you said 3 or 4 might be
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
right? Okay, that's all I was saying. The thing about it is, there's bulk on that area every Monday. There's recycle every Thursday, and garbage on Tuesday,
Okay.
okay, or Wednesday. Nobody, even me and my wife, we put 2 cans of recyclables out because we drink water and everything else, put outside there. So that's me and her with 2 and my 2 sons. So you're telling me that if you got 7 or 9 buildings in this place, apartments, you're not going to use that many garbage cans, just 3 or 4? And once again, like the young lady spoke earlier about rodents and everything. You said it's going to be enclosed with pretty flowers and trees and all that and fencing. It's not going to stop rodents. And if the rodents are on Laurel Avenue, God forbid it comes to my church, Hilton Avenue, First Baptist, where ladies walk and see big rodents, rats, going back and forth. So I understand your plans and everything, your say-sos and do's and maybes, whatever have you, but you really got to take in consideration being part of the community to understand across the street, understand the parking, understand people walking down the street being lit, and the thing goes off, so that means a cat can go through there, light goes off because they're motion detected, correct?
Yes.
Okay. There's a lot of ifs, maybes, and could-bes not written in the plans.
So, if I may, in light of all of the comments and questions, and clearly there are a number of neighbors here that, have a number of concerns that have been raised tonight, we're respectfully requesting that the hearing be adjourned so that our plans can be updated in order to incorporate, and the comments from the public and the board, in order to address as many concerns as we can.
Before we get to that, I do have one quick question that I'd like to get on the record. Mr. Cueto,
Yes.
1.6 in the Collier's engineering report, I just want some clarity on this. You said how many one-bedrooms are there?
7.
Okay, so 1.6, it says 6 ones and 2 threes. Is that a typo on Collier's part?
I believe.
Just want to
Yeah,
make
I think
sure.
it's 7. It's 7 one-bedrooms and 2.
I believe that there had been a typo in one of the plans originally where this chart came, where the numbers
I
were
just
pulled from.
want to clarify
Yes.
that so there's
So
no-
it is a typo,
So it's a typo, so it's 7-2.
correct.
Okay.
Well, let's decide, I want to understand, you're looking to move it when? We have a lot of people here tonight, the holidays are coming up. You're going to make a new submission with revisions, correct?
Correct.
And update the variance, as it were, that we know for the impervious coverage, and anything else that might have come up tonight.
Correct.
In terms of detail in the site plan, correct? That has to be submitted, as you know, council, at least 10 days for the board to be able to digest it, and also the public, if they want to come down to town hall and be able to see it before the adjourned date. So do you have a date in mind that you're looking, or a time period that you would need to consider these changes? Because
I mean, when's
we're
the-
up
when's the
against
next-
Christmas, and this year is pretty much done for this board in terms of
We're booked, and we
detail.
don't have the new
So we're
dates for
looking
next year.
January.
Okay.
So the next date would be in January?
Yes,
If-
we don't know yet, because we didn't do our...
Right, we didn't do our reorg meeting.
Reorg meeting for our
Understood.
schedule.
Okay, so we understand that a January date, and if, with the dates not having been set yet.
It would have to be renoticed,
Yes,
is my point. So
I
really
understand.
can't make a public announcement to tell someone that they would come on a date that the board hasn't established.
Understood, yes.
Just so the public understands that change. I know we're adjourning, or he's asking to adjourn. The chairman's going to ask for a motion in a second. It's a pretty standard request. You've heard a lot of detail, and hopefully the applicant will be receptive to some of the concerns and comments. And I encourage all public members, council is available, I'm sure, or make yourself available, or
Absolutely.
the applicant himself, to be able to discuss these concerns, because obviously, if the application is going to be receptive, you got to coexist, or changes have to be made to try to make it amenable to the neighborhood. And that's what we're here tonight to do. So, Mr. Chairman, I think the adjournment request is standard. It would have to be renoticed, though, and so I think with that in mind, the board should consider a motion in a second and discuss any adjournment.
At this time, can I have a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting so the applicant can make modifications to the plans? At this time, we do not have a meeting date. Can I have a motion?
Yes, I would like to make a motion that we reschedule this to another date sometime in January, and to give them another date in January 2023.
Can I have a second?
Council, can I ask just for the record, too, as the board votes, that any time constraints that confront the board would be waived to realize the adjournment?
Yes.
Thank you. So noted for the record.
Roll call, Mr.
Mr. Bentavagina?
Yes.
Ms. Alexander?
Yes.
Mr. Wiley? Yes. Mr. McNeil?
Yes.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Reverend Starling?
Yes.
And Mr. Champion?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, there be no further business coming before us this evening. I move that we adjourn.
Neil, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.